by by just getting started, right? Taking action, you're already doing so much more than 80% of your peers who are afraid to take action.
Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Have you ever noticed how some companies seem to be everywhere you turn? Their ads are in your Facebook feed, their flyers are in your mailbox, and their banners are on the fence at your kid's school. How do they do it? What kind of marketing budget do they have? And how on earth can a little guy compete with that? Having a huge budget is one way to get in front of people, but it's not the only way. Content marketing is another way that you can extend your reach and be everywhere your clients are. That sounds easier said than done. So I've invited Jeff Mendelson to help me out with this topic. Let me give you a little bit of background on him. Jeff Mendelson is the host of the One Big Tip podcast, and he also develops comprehensive digital marketing campaigns for any size business. He focuses on lead generation and ROI-based initiatives, helping entrepreneurs conceptualize, develop, and then execute all-encompassing digital marketing strategies, sales funnels, paid campaigns, and more. With over 15 years of continuous digital marketing experience in all formats, Jeff is a wealth of information of what works, what doesn't in the digital marketing space. So, welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, what a great intro, man. I love the way you enunciated all that. That was great.
Thank you. Well, you did write some of that. I stole it from your website. So, should I call you Jeffito today? Looks like that's your chosen name on the screen here.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what people should know is that Jeff Rowe came on my podcast about, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, maybe a little bit less, and we were throwing that back and forth. I'm like, hey, I have a Jeff nickname as well. So, what happened was when I got a job where I moved to Mexico City, and in Mexico they're really big on nicknames for just about everything. So I became Jeffito, and it was like, yeah, let's stick to it. I like
I
that,
like it.
and I owned it.
Muy bien. Well, today, Jefito, I wanted to talk about content marketing because it's something that any business owner can start doing today, even without a big budget. So, can you give us your definition of content marketing? And then I've got lots of questions for you.
Sure. So content marketing is really just that, the marketing of content. Now, like what is content? Now we have 30, 40 channels and different ways that we can create content, between Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. All of these are different channels, they're different neighborhoods. The norms that you would walk through them are slightly different. The things that fly on TikTok don't necessarily fly on LinkedIn, things like that. So really what we're talking about here is figuring out, A, what kind of content do you need to put out in order to get recognized, and B, where are you going to place it so that it gets the most impact. That's really it in a nutshell.
Right. And obviously, with all those different options, it feels overwhelming and you can't necessarily do all of those channels at once when you're first starting out. So, how can someone know which type of content to start making? And is there a clear choice when it comes to the ROI of time invested versus seeing those efforts translate to more customers?
I would start this, especially with smaller businesses, solopreneurs, people that are like, in the home services main businesses, things like that. Where do you go to consume your content? Right. So an esthetician, right? I asked an esthetician this question. Where do you get excited? She's like, well, I get excited from TikToks and Instagram. Right. So if she's able to find the content that she loves, that she learns from on TikTok and Instagram, then that's where she should go. Don't go to Facebook. You have nothing to look for on LinkedIn. Twitter or X is not going to help you. Go with what you know is basically what it is.
Right. Well, and a side effect of that is if that's the platform you spend the most time on, you're also more familiar with what works and what doesn't. And that way you can create similar content rather than going somewhere else and getting it totally wrong.
Exactly. And something, it also becomes a question of what content do I light up to? Will I stop the scroll versus what stuff will I just scroll right past? So I have this friend. She is a licensed nurse, just not in this country, right? So what happened is that she had to take other jobs, that are in the beauty industry, let's say, but she still has all of this great training that she can use, right? we had this great conversation where I was just like, okay, well, where do you consume your content? Where do you get excited? She's like, oh, Instagram all day long. I'm like, great. Well, how about you make a video? And it was instant rejection. No, I'm not doing that. Right. I'm not doing the pokey, the pokey hands at invisible things. I'm not, I don't look at, no, for, first of all, she's very cute, right? She's animated. She would be a natural for this if she would just get past herself and realize that everybody else started with 0 followers, right? For example, on my podcast, right? You can go back to, please do not go back to episode 1, right? Please don't go back to episode 1 and listen to it because I objectively suck, right? You can go to, Gary V, reverse sort his YouTube feed and watch his videos when he was doing wine. He sucked, but he stuck through it, right? And that's exactly what everyone else needs to go for. It's like, you need to build a little bit of authenticity, and you don't build authenticity by hiring a model, by having someone else write it. It's just you being you. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what people are buying. They're buying you. They're buying, your services. They want to make that connection. And the only way you can make that connection is actually take the device, the 4K recording device that we all have in our hands right now, and use it.
Yeah, and it's a skill like anything else, right? You got to start doing it. You got to be okay with not being good at first, and that way you will start to become good. Like you don't get to become a great soccer player just by watching others and reading books about it. You got to get on the field and play, and that's how you get the experience and you improve each game that you're out there. So
And
another question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that, by just getting started, right? Taking action, you're already doing so much more than 80% of your peers who are afraid to take action, right? Who cares if you suck? Who cares if your mom, your husband, and your cousins see that first video? It doesn't matter. Just keep on doing it, because eventually you're going to put out something that's going to touch someone's nerve and be like, yeah, I like this person. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and I like that they keep on doing it, right? That's the other big important piece because a lot of people start stuff. We're still in January as we record this. I'm sure a lot of people have made their New Year's resolutions. Most of them won't stick with it. So that's the next big piece. Start and then keep going. So a related question there is how much time should an owner be allocating to content marketing or making these posts in order for it to be effective? Do you have any guidelines for that?
I would say as much or as little as it takes, right? So now, let me be clear here, right? If you are in a like Columbus, Ohio, let's pick on Columbus today, right? If you're in Columbus, Ohio, which is a mid-sized American city, you, as an esthetician, using that example as well, you probably have a good 50 people in your area that you are competing with at any one time, right? Now, how many of them are putting out content that is consumable for the local market? Not just those get ready with me, while I'm putting on makeup type things, but really, something that somebody local can latch onto. I'd say under 5 in any major market, right? And what happens is, first of all, you need to identify those. That's not hard. Find estheticians in Columbus, right? Work the hashtags a little bit. The hashtags are actually the secret sauce. We make fun of hashtags a lot, right? But actually, what it does is that it opens the doors to discoverability. Because when you create a post and you only have 100 followers, right? But then you add to that post hashtag esthetician in Columbus, right? Whatever that is, you are opening that up to anyone else who is searching for estheticians in Columbus, right? So that's how you would, uh, add that. Now, just find a few hashtags that give you some low visibility and medium visibility and high visibility. You have up to 30 to place inside that post, especially on Instagram. I forgot the number for TikTok, right? But you can put this in, and you need to find what people are in fact searching for. And little by little, it's, if your competition is posting 5 times a day, I wouldn't start with 5 times a day, but at least that's a good benchmark for you to, strive to achieve. Right. Then you can think about how you're going to, okay, how do I commit to 3 a week? How do I commit to to 5 a week, Monday through Friday. And something, you don't need to instantaneously turn on like, oh, I'm just going to do this day. Like, you can batch these videos, right? You can schedule 2 hours of your time, right? And just say, and write down some thoughts. Here's, I'm going to talk about, for video 1, I'm going to talk about this. For video 2, I'm going to talk about that. And believe me, it's going to take you 4 or 5 takes of you standing in front, and you're going to and you're going to stutter, and you're going to go right through it, and that's fine. Then you just cut them up, right? And now you have content for a week, and you knocked it out in one batch, and now you don't need to think about it. The more you can batch, and the more you can figure out what it is that your audience is looking for, and you'll have an easier time creating that, right? So you're not just putting it out there for vanity, um, and just and for visibility. You're doing it because you're passionate about it, right? It comes through in our voices, you and I, for what it is, like you and I are doing. We're passionate about this medium, right? About podcasting and getting up on videos. Some people aren't, right? For me to make this video to myself, please shoot me now. This will take me forever, right? Put me in front of somebody. Oh my God, I'll talk your head off for 2 hours. This will be the longest podcast you've ever recorded, right? But what happens is that you build on that skill, right? And if it means that you're going to do it by yourself in the office, or you're going to start with some of those tried and true themes, like the get ready with me, or watch me put on makeup, or whatever that is, capitalize on them. They're trending. It's something that's working, and if it's working, then you should think about doing something like that too.
Right. And that's a great way. Batching is obviously a good, effective, efficient use of your time. But I like that you touched on hashtags too, because my next question was going to be, what if you don't have followers yet? And so if you do a little bit of this hashtag research, put those in there, that helps you get the exposure. But just remember that uh, this is really a medium to long term strategy. So if you're hoping that if I just pick the magic keyword or hashtag, I'm going to go viral, don't plan for that. Just, we talked about being consistent. Do this week after week. That's how you're going to get better, and that's how you're going to see those results going forward.
So what you can do with this, right? The hashtag research shouldn't take you more than an hour to do, right? For anyone that knows their industry and knows the type of things that they're searching for, do it on your computer. Don't do it on your phone, right? Have the notepad, or the notes app open, right? And just go through all of your competitors and see what hashtags they're using. Okay? Put that all into a list. Then what you're going to do is that you're going to take those hashtags and search each one of them to see the approximate number of posts, right? So you're going to have some hashtags that have 1,000 plus posts. You're going to have others that have 10,000 to 50,000. You're going to have others that are going to be in the 3 million, 10 million range, whatever it is, right? What you want is a mix of all of those, right? You want a mix of the under 1,000 posts. You want a mix of the under 10,000 posts. You want a mix of the under 100,000, under a million, under 5 million posts, right? 2 or 3 from each will do it, right? And then, that will just be your cut and paste at the end of each, at the end of each post, you put them in, right? And maybe you might want to go back and look at that. You also want to look at those hashtags to make sure they're relevant, that they don't just show up just other stuff that maybe you didn't intend, or maybe there's some kind of slang word that you weren't expecting, right? But for the most part, this is easy stuff to do. You don't need to hire me or Jeffro to do this, right? You could do this on your own. And
But it's so important that you actually do it, though, because I'll give you an example, because it's intuitive for me. Okay, this is a digital marketing podcast. I'll put hashtag digital marketing. But when I go and look at the videos that come up under that hashtag, it's about people who want to become digital marketers, right? It's not small business owners who I want to actually reach and teach about digital marketing. So that means I need to pick different hashtags, like hashtag small business marketing or something. And so check the videos first in that hashtag as well. That should be part of the research that you're doing.
exactly, you want it to be relevant, right? And you really want you want to keep your audience in mind. Now, 7 times out of 10, right? I'm being really intentional here. 7 times out of 10, you are not your customer, or you are not your client, right? Because as an esthetician, maybe I don't do my nails as much, right? Or I don't, or I'll go to another esthetician in order to do it, right? So just keep that in mind that, even though you and I are selling digital marketing services, right, doesn't necessarily mean that we want a whole bunch of digital marketers calling us up. We're really looking for people in the niche or businesses in the niche that we're focusing on, whether you're focusing on lawyers, on dentists, on home services, things like that, right? So you want to make sure that the when you're doing the search is that you're keeping your audience in mind, not just what interests you.
Right. So, as you're getting to the point where you're doing this, you're batching your content and trying to come up with stuff. Do you recommend hiring someone to ghostwrite content or help draft scripts or use ChatGPT? What are your suggestions there?
Let me break that down. So first of all, the chat gpt, if you don't take the time to learn how to use it properly, you're gonna get this really bland content, right? Which serves almost nobody. You can use it for ideation, for hey, give me the top 10 things that that an HVAC installer that you need to ask your HVAC installer, right? And then gives you the 10 ideas. Great, those are 10 videos that you can create, right? Ghostwriting, I think it's really hard to find somebody who can write in your voice, right? And you know, it, maybe you can do that once all of your other free time is exhausted and you're not able to do it. But I'd say for someone starting out, really write it on your own. Listen, I have an MBA, right? I can read and write English to a very high level. Do I want to do that? Absolutely not. It'll take me hours and hours and hours, to write 1,000-word blog post on absolutely anything, right? So that kind of stuff I would outsource to somebody, right? But then again, I've also reach the spot where I don't need to write this stuff anymore. Did I do it when I first started out? Yeah, of course. Like I had to figure out how I was going to do it. I would either take content and mold it, from somewhere else, or make it up on my own. But it was a very time consuming process for me. So I think that once you get to the point where it's not, where your time is completely exhausted and you're making money from this, obviously, because you're going to have to pay this person, right? Then it will be a time to think about, okay, how do I bring in a ghostwriter? But once you bring in a ghostwriter, once you start adding people to your business, now you're opening up a whole new host of skills, which is probably another episode for you and I, right? Is how to manage all these people, right? How do you get great content out of it? If you're going to go to your virtual specialist and you're going to say, write me 10 social media posts that are going to go viral, that ain't gonna happen. Like it's just not gonna happen. Like that's not how it works, right? So you can't expect somebody that you're hiring down the line to be as passionate and as knowledgeable as you are. You have to learn to be a good manager in order to pass that information off so that they can help you shortcut a lot of those tasks and actually get them done. So the short answer to your question is don't do it if you're just starting out. Only do it like once you absolutely need to.
Right, and that makes sense. Yeah, there is going to be some upfront work to figure out what your voice is, what you talk about, how you like doing things before you even consider, handing that off. Is there ever a time where you should take any of these posts or these content pieces that you've created and run them as an ad to get more views, to sponsor them or boost them?
So boosting, I would stay away from because boosting is it's a lazy money grab for Facebook,
I
right? It's
agree.
just not, yeah, it's just, oh yeah, give us $10, and we'll boost your post. Like really what happens behind the scenes? I'll tell you exactly what happens behind the scenes. Mark Zuckerberg just took $10 of your money, right? And so it showed it to 90,000 other people that you don't know what happened. All right. So my prejudices are clear on that, right? Um, in terms of using paid ads and taking each one of these posts, paid ads is the fastest way to test market whether your message lands or not, right? Because if you put it on your TikTok or you put it on your Instagram, and let's say you have a decent following, 10, 20, 50,000 people, whatever it is, right? And you're getting some people that are responding to it, great. It's not until you actually put money on something that's when it becomes real, right? That's when it becomes like, okay, I'm gonna put I don't know, $10 a day, and I'm gonna optimize it to this to this particular group. It's much easier to track than how many people clicked, how many people converted, things like that. And you can set up multiple tests in the tools that we have today, right? Just going to the Facebook Business Manager, things like that. They're not overly complicated, right? I mean, they can be a little technical. There is definitely a science that goes on, that you should know your metrics and you should know what you're clicking on. But there's also a big part of it is the art. How much do people want to see this face talking about something, right? Or whether I can get my wife to talk about it, who looks a lot better than me, things like that. So you just want to make sure that, if you are going to do something like that, paid ads is actually going to help you test market very, very fast, because everything else grows organically, right? So like you said, it's a medium to long term play. And if you don't have the time or the patience to see what works and what doesn't, paid ads will shortcut the whole thing. And you'll see within a week, did this particular ad work or did it not?
Right, because it gives you a lot more data points and it allows you to see how it's working too. Because, oh, wow, you might get a lot of people liking it, but nobody's clicking, the link in the description. And so it's not driving the business outcomes that you actually want. So you can take what you've learned from that. Okay, people like this. How can I tweak my call to action or something? Right. And that can inform your next step or your next one that you boost, or not boost, sorry, that you run as an ad. Most marketers agree, don't boost your post. So, all right. Do you have any other common mistakes that people make when they're trying to implement a content marketing strategy?
You know, yeah, there are some mistakes, but I think mistake is the wrong word here. It's a little strong, right? Because you do need to you do need to go through this path to see what works and what doesn't, right? You have to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, right? Because just because you may not have the face or the ability to animate on TikTok as you do on Instagram. You may feel more comfortable on one platform versus the other. So, part of it is go with what you know, right? And the other part is, go where you're most comfortable, right? So the mistakes would be, going too wide, too fast, right? Just trying to, all because you can get buffer for $20 a month, and you can simultaneously post to 10 different platforms at a time. It's not helping you, right? And nobody's reading it, right? I guarantee you nobody's reading it. And just what you need to figure out is, just iterate. All of these failures bring you a step closer to your wins, right? I know
Right.
it sounds cliche. I know it's like,
It's
oh my
true
god, I
though.
heard this so many times before, and stop Tony, Tony Robbins and me. But yeah, I mean, but this is how it's done, because when you see someone successful, you don't see the hundreds of hours or years that they put behind it to get to that point where they are today, right? That's just a fact.
Yeah. And that's a great reminder. So we are near at the end of our time here, but so I want to thank you, Jeffito, for being here with me today. I know you have so much more advice to share, but we can only fit so much in here. If you guys are listening and you want to connect with Jeff, go to jeffmendelson.com to get in touch with him. And I have a final question for you that I get to now turn the tables. So what's your one big tip that you want to leave us with?
One big tip, my favorite tip that I got so far is in the productivity space. I used to be really big on to-do lists, right? But my to-do list would get massive, different categories, all kinds of different stuff. And one person told me, well, why don't you schedule them? Right? How long will it take for this one to do? Well, this will take 10 minutes. Schedule it. When are you going to do it? Right? Make sure you put in some Slack time. There are actually now some really cool apps that help you do this. Like, I haven't tested these yet, but there's like a motion app, motion.ai, something like that. That basically you take where it does exactly that, where you assign a time value to the tasks that you have to do, and then it fits it into your schedule so you could just go and knock them out. Right. And what happens is, if it sits on your, if it sits on your to-do list for longer than a day, longer than a week, then either it wasn't important, or it means that you had to delegate it to somebody else and you just haven't done that yet. So it's one of those two. The idea is that you want to be as productive as possible. So yeah, schedule those tasks and actually get them done.
Awesome. I like that. I actually do something similar with my calendar, and I can attest that it does help. So thanks for being here, Jeff, and thanks to all of you guys for listening. Go create some awesome content, push it out everywhere, and dominate your niche. And we'll see you next time.